Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to At Your Service. This is a weekly live stream where I interview seasoned service-based business owners. We have an awesome conversation today. I am joined by my great friend, Paul Grenci. Paul, appreciate you joining me today.
Absolutely. Couldn't think of a better place to be.
Thank you. It's far too kind of you. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background as to who you are and what you do for work?
Absolutely. So my name's Paul Grenci. I actually grew up in the Westchester County area in New York. Went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute for an engineering degree back in the early 90s and landed in IT because I didn't really think I wanted to do engineering.
Wow.
Fast forward a couple of years, and I grew a little discontent with corporate America. I'm sure that's a common story you probably hear from these entrepreneurs and talking to. But ultimately, I decided that I liked working in IT. I just didn't like who I was working for. So back in 2002, I kicked off my own business, servicing IT customers in Westchester, and 22 years later, we're a 20-person company. We've got a sister company that produces a product for this industry that 3,000 other firms use called Strategy Overview.
Wow.
And we service over 70 clients in and around the New York City metro area right now.
Paul, that's pretty incredible. So obviously I know about your main business,
Yeah.
Red Solutions, but I didn't know that you had a sister company as well. Could you just give like a quick overview of that?
Yeah, absolutely. As any good entrepreneur knows, a good product is a service that scratches your own itch.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were building out our client base for Red Solutions, we realized there wasn't a good software package out there for managing strategy, for managing the transformations over time, and tracking and reporting on all those different components. So, like any entrepreneur, we started with a spreadsheet, and we ended up tracking over 150 different points, and we realized that spreadsheets weren't going to get the job done, and there was a need for the product. So we started to build our own little SaaS app, and that was probably about 8 years ago now. And we've got, like I said, roughly 3,000 people around the globe using it right now, other IT firms, to manage their clients and their finances and their digital transformations. So we scratched our own itch, and other people are happy with the product.
That's incredible. And is it with that business model, is it like an upfront fee or is it recurring revenue or
pure subscription, just like a good SaaS app should be?
It's really good. It's very, very cool.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
And when you first launched Red Solutions, what was a challenge that you faced and how did you ultimately overcome it?
Well, I mean, the first challenge comes when you find a partner that you think you might want to work with.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with Red Key. I was running my own business, small firm, maybe 6-7 people. And my now partner, Alex Markov, found me because he was having some technical issues. And he had a complementary business, let's say, focused a little bit more on web design and credit card online payments. But we cross-sold to our clients for 2 years and, had some wins and had some losses. And we realized that we could work together. So that was the first big hurdle to overcome was realizing that if I joined forces with somebody else, we could make this whole thing bigger and grander.
Wow.
That was our first big hurdle. But I think a more significant hurdle actually came about 2 or 3 years after that. As the IT industry as a whole started to move towards what we now call managed services, which is, contract, a fixed fee each month, and we handle unlimited support. That model was starting to come up, and we knew it was a good model, but we weren't ready for it, and our clients weren't ready for it. And Brandon, let me tell you, we fired 75% of our clients.
Wow.
Converted about 20 of them to this management program and just went full on trying to get it done in that new way. And that was scary as hell. But ultimately a really good choice.
Wow. That's, yeah. I mean, obviously, when anybody starts a business, regardless of their industry, you'll have challenges. And when you first started working with your partner, do you think it was a personality challenge, or was it more so, finding finding roles that are unique to each one of you that um, complemented each other?
Yes. So there you can't unwind how those things are integrated into each other for
Right.
sure. So we each had to grow up and mature a little bit because both of us were founders of our own organizations, which means theoretically we had the skill set required to do all of the things. But to your point, there are places where one of us is better than others, and it takes us a little bit of time to figure that out. In my exact example, Alex and I actually flipped roles after a while. I started off as the CEO of the organization. I'm a little bit older than him. I had a little bit more experience. But ultimately, we realized that he had a little bit more sophisticated understanding of the financials and was really good at long-term vision building. So we ended up switching about 3 or 4 years into the organization, and I became the second in command as president, which is a little bit more like a chief operating officer in our organization, with some additional role abilities and responsibilities. And that's kind of how we ended up splicing things up. He also spends a lot of time managing the sister company as well. He's CEO of both organizations. And so some personality adjustments and sorting out, some growing up, and some discipline about picking a role and staying in it. We're 50%. We split the ownership of 𝐤𝐞𝐾 Solutions, okay. And I know I've talked to a lot of people about partnerships in general, not to diverge too much, but it's usually a very binary position. People are either like, yes, you need partners, or hell no, I'm doing it. Right? Like you kind of feel that's really your two choices. And as someone who did both, I can say that the partnership is more powerful.
Yeah.
It's harder because even though I own the same percentage of the organization as Alex does, that doesn't come into play with regards to executing the day-to-day because we have roles. I'm second in command. If I don't agree with something that he chooses to do, believe me, I'll let him know. But it's his call. You know what I mean? And that's discipline and maturation on my part to be able to handle that, especially as someone who was an entrepreneur and a sole owner at one point. So it's not for everybody.
For sure. Yeah. I could see how there could be some points of contention, with if there's other business partners who are in a similar sort of position to you and your partner, and how you have it structured, especially with egos and when you're first starting as well, for sure.
Absolutely. All of that's true.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I enjoy the results, the effect that we have on the companies that we work with, and honestly, the staff that we hire. And basically what that is we help everyone become the best version of themselves as possible. For companies, we do that by giving them a framework to organize their strategy and manage their IT and their evolutions and their finances related to all of that. And with regards to the people, we give them all the tools and training and coaching and support that they need to get to where they're going. And, those two things align really, really well as a business. For
sure. You also have a ping pong table at your office, which I enjoy very much. So
I do. I do. You got to take care of all the different aspects of your people.
You have to. Absolutely, Paul. And very, very well said. wanted to also ask, obviously there's quite a handful of IT companies.
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective, what makes you stand out from your competition?
That's a pretty good question too. And you can find people anywhere at any price point to do IT, right?
Mhm.
So ultimately, what makes us unique is really a combination of three things that aren't all that unique, but the combination of those three things is what is unique. So for us, we focus very, very heavily on people. As technical as a business as this might appear to be, it's actually just a bunch of people behind their screens trying to get their jobs done. And using that as a philosophy to drive how we interact with our users, it tends to allow us to focus on the whole person instead of the technology, and people appreciate that.
Mhm.
So we combine people first mentality
Definitely.
with a long-term strategic focus. Obviously, we do that if we have a sister company that produces a SaaS app that focuses on that.
For
Right.
sure.
So we're very focused on strategy and proactiveness and tracking metrics of growth over time.
Mhm.
So that makes it easy for people to see whether or not it's worthwhile to be involved with us. And we can see it too. So it's good for everybody. And then the last part, the third component of this little tripod that makes us unique is we're from New York. New
Yep.
York speeds. The New York minute is a thing.
Definitely.
Okay. So we're quick. And we focus on the people. We get tons of feedback, Brandon. Let me tell you, 95% of our feedback uses the term fast or quick to describe what we're doing because, people just want to get on with their job. And we know that. So we staff our teams in such a way to make sure that people get that kind of result.
Absolutely. And going back to being prompt, there's I think your speed of execution speaks volumes to your operations and how
Yeah.
you run your company. Because if you respond to a customer saying, if they're having a tech issue and you say that you'll be finished with it end of day versus, within 2 to 3 days, it makes a huge difference.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And, speaking about your customers, so who is your ideal customer? And when I say ideal, in terms of industry, in terms of geography, in terms of employee size, what does that look like for your company?
Well, I mean, geography, we've got an office here in Westchester. We've got an office in New York City. We've got an office in Fairfield, and we've got an office out in LA. Being hyper local is kind of nice. So I'd say a majority of our clients are actually within probably 30 miles of
Mhm.
our White Plains office. And in this hyper connected global economy, it's really nice to know that you can have somebody on site in a
Yeah,
very short period of time. So it's almost like the inversion of going global. We're hyper local. We support a lot of folks right here in the area, and that's actually pretty nice. With regards to industries, though, we're good in a lot of industries. In other words, if you're professional services of any type, legal or accounting or anything like that, we're going to do a great job for you because we're a very professional organization. But we do have specializations in healthcare, manufacturing, and distribution,
Mhm.
and construction, just to kind of pull out a couple of specific spots that we really know. If you're just starting out, we know what you need to use. And if
Mhm.
you're a third generation organization, right, and the new generation is taking ownership, we can take you all the way through from OML level 1, operational maturity level, all the way through number 5, which is basically legacy building in those industries that we've got a lot of skills. Now, with regards to size, I'd say our hyper focused sweet spot is going to be somewhere between 20 and 80 people. Now, we've got clients on outside of that on either end. Okay, but I find that 20 to 80 is the place where companies can grow and be very, very efficient. You can have a really good company between the sizes of 20 and 80. They can be nimble, they can be well funded, they can have a lot of experience, they can be very profitable. And it's not too big, right? The amount of middle bloat that happens as companies get over 150, over 200 people, that can complicate development, that can complicate workflows, that can complicate what it takes to actually build your company. So it's that sweet spot, 20 to 80, where the owners or the CEOs and the operators are still involved in the day-to-day, to the point where they can appreciate an IT company, ideally, that operates better than they do.
Right.
Because when one of our clients, the best reason to come to a company like 𝐤𝐳𝐾 is when a prospect or a potential client starts to outgrow. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it feel like when you start to outgrow your existing IT provider? Yeah, you lose confidence. Then maybe they're not as responsive as you need them to be. Maybe there's a little bit of turnover and you don't feel like their people are getting trained just right. It becomes a sense that something's not as good as it can be. And that's really a great trigger to come over to a more experienced firm like 𝐤𝐳𝐾.
For sure. Yeah. When you're working with other service providers, or, with a vendor or a business partner, it's always important that they have expertise and that they're a few steps ahead of you, because they could teach you a lot.
That is the right way to say it. A few steps ahead of you, because you're going to grow as an organization. Good organizations, well-run organizations, they grow over time. They mature over time. They evolve over time. We often try really hard to make sure that our clients evolve and grow and mature with us, because if they don't, they're going to end up falling out the back end, because we're no longer going to be the best company for them. And if that's avoidable, and it is with some environments and some clients, we'd love to help them evolve and stay with us. No reason to leave if we're still the right company.
100%. Absolutely, Paul. Yeah, very, very well said. And, obviously you had mentioned that you started your company in 2002. Now we're in 2024, 22 years. You have 20 employees, which is amazing. So obviously you've been growing your business, you've been growing your client base. And from your perspective, what do you think has been the secret to you growing your company like you have?
Relationships and communication. Honestly, internally, with our hires, with our prospects for hires, to make sure that we get A players when we bring them in, training, the ethos with which we manage our company and how we manage our day-to-day, our core values, communication with clients about what they need to know, when they need to know it, builds trust. That's one of the things, honestly, I think I would say, Brendan, is every interaction you have with someone does one of two things. You're either building trust or eroding trust. And if you keep that framework in your mind, and up and down my organization, from the frontline deployable engineers that have only been with us and in the industry for a year or two, to the folks that are veterans, with 20 years of experience, it doesn't matter. If you think about building trust with every exchange that you have with a client, or even a coworker or a vendor, it's the secret. That's the secret sauce right there.
I love that, Paul. You should write a book.
Nah. let me get a little bit further out of the day-to-day, and then we'll talk more about books.
That's awesome, Paul. No, that's you're filled with wisdom, Paul, and just really, really enjoying this conversation. So you've been in IT for quite some time. Could you ever see, or maybe not now, but if there was another world out there, what other career path do you think you might have chosen?
That's a fun question, actually. I love cooking.
Really?
And I do. I used to joke all the time about, would we be able to serve this in a cafe? That was like the bar about, would people pay for this? How much would they pay for that? The reality of that situation is I know that business is way too hard.
Yeah.
And I would never try
Right.
to actually do that. But in another world, maybe. So that would be one, and maybe another one. I might be okay with being like a massage therapist.
Wow.
I'm a physical kind of guy, meaning like I'm aware of my own body. I spend time. I do yoga and I've done meditation over the years, and
Awesome.
it's something that I've spent some time on. And I'm definitely the house masseuse when the family, somebody hurts something playing soccer or dancing. Their dad, can you take a look over here? So maybe that would be one of my other options. I don't know.
Very, very cool, Paul. I didn't know that about cooking. What do you like to cook? Obviously, there's a lot of things that you could make, but
I would almost say more than what is how.
okay.
Am I cooking on the grill? Because I scratch a couple itches doing that, right? It's not so much what, how am I cooking? What am I doing? Am I baking?
Wow.
Am I broiling? Am I sauteing? Wok. Hey, even air fryer these days. Who knows, right?
For sure.
But yeah, so I kind of derive pleasure. I have some specials. The kids will say the daddy burgers are pretty good. I make a pretty good chicken cutlet.
Awesome.
Things like that. Steaks I can handle pretty well. Roasts. But I'm not that deep on it. I know people that blow me out of the water. I don't make my own pasta. I'll be honest. I don't have quite that much time to put into it.
It is quite time intensive. No, but that's really, really cool. Another question here. So what is something that nobody or very few people know about you?
Well, I would say probably the most interesting thing, and you kind of tagged on this a little bit earlier, is my wisdom that might be coming out of my mouth. I'm a little bit of a recreational philosopher, so to speak.
Love that.
That might seem a little obvious because you know me and you've heard me say things that kind of make you go,
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually spend a fair amount of time doing that, and definitely when I take off from Red Key being my primary activity, I'll have a little bit of an academy off, get that off the ground and try and help some other philosophers find their way.
That's awesome, Paul. It's very, very cool. I think that everybody should take a philosophy class if they have the opportunity to.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One of my favorite classes that I took in college was ethics, and it just it just made me think a lot more and past the surface. I think it's important.
Yeah, it's funny. My senior year in college, I took an engineering ethics class.
Wow.
Which was pretty interesting because it really put you in direct odds with your employer, which was a very strange position to be in while I'm taking the class. I'm like, who could possibly bring up these issues and still have a job?
Yeah.
You couldn't. Yeah, it was a very, very interesting conversation with my teacher about that one.
For sure. That's awesome, Paul. And just two final questions. So, number one, what is one way that you like to give back?
Well, I mentioned hyper local, right? So we're down in White Plains. So Feeding Westchester, the Clay Art Center over in Port Chester, and Volunteer New York are three organizations that just pop into my head right away. They're all super local. I get to meet with the people that are running those organizations. You know what I mean? The ones that actually have the passion. It's not just over email. It's not just a video I saw. I get to talk to these people and see why they care about what they're doing. And you've been to some of my networking events. In fact, I took your lead and would raise money during these events to give to some of these local charities. And you've obviously been a big influence on me with your own giving and your own philosophy around all of that. So I have to thank you for showing me the way on some of that, to be honest.
No, absolutely. And, the way that Paul and I met was actually through a fundraising event.
That's right.
That he was involved with for an organization that we both did some fundraising for, LLS, which is awesome.
That was how we met. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah. And the one final question, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, you can definitely hit me up on LinkedIn. You can go to the Red Solutions website. You'll be able to get through to me there. I've got my email address is pgrenci@redkeysolutions.com. Feel free to hit me up direct. I do a pretty good job of maintaining a clean inbox so that only human communications get in there. So I promise I'll write back to you. Don't worry about that.
That's awesome, Paul. Yeah. Appreciate you chatting. Really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
And, yeah, looking forward to seeing what the future holds for us.
Absolutely. We need to put together a lunch sometime soon.
Yes, sir.